Hail and well met 20-sided Tavern team. My name is Drew Bastian, and I would love to audition for the role of Dungeon Master.
So my experience with Dungeons & Dragons. To begin, I take Dungeons & Dragons with me everywhere, and I mean that quite literally. I have this tattoo of an arrow shooting through dice. It is meant to be a connection to both D&D and to my brother, whom has a sword made of dice. Speaking of, he's the one that introduced me to D&D in 4th grade. He ran some sessions on a vacation with some cousins and myself. I played a dwarven character with whom a princess that we were trying to save drank a love potion and fell in love with my character. Of course, the princess was a shapeshifter and turned into a giant minotaur, picked me up and put me into her pants. How a minotaur wears pants, I'm still not entirely sure of. Been pondering that to this day. But moving on, in 7th grade is when I started becoming a dungeon master. I wanted to play more D&D. I loved it, so I wanted to get my friends involved. Of course, none of them wanted to DM, so I became the forever DM, a thing I am grateful for to this day. Moving many years past, having run many games. I can remember the release of 5th edition. I was at Gen Con when Tiamat started making her rumblings, and getting to play as this new piece came forward that really brought more players in. I wanted to then get the people in my life in even more. At that point, I was a touring musician and actor. I started running campaigns out of vans for the punk band I was touring with, on the buses that I was touring with musicals, and it was fantastic. It was fantastic. I can't even imagine another way to bring people that much closer. So much so that I actually am part of a hardcore project that has multiple songs about Dungeons and Dragons. I've linked one of them here. That continued to be wonderful. Moving forward, though, during lockdown, I found myself living in Virginia and working with folks to continue making D&D happen. That included making through a local brewery a thing called Dungeons and Drafts, where we ran one-shots to teach people Dungeons and Dragons and get everyone involved. And I became an English teacher and started a club called the Buffalo Gap Tabletop Gaming Club. We actually became the 2nd largest non-athletic group at the school. We had 45 members. The focus was Dungeons and Dragons. Getting to create characters, getting to create stories together. So much so that we adapted a way to play Dungeons and Dragons with 45 people at one time in the same game. That was a wonderful, wonderful time. At this point, I've come back to performing, but I'm running a Witchlight campaign. I've run Strahd, I've played Avernus, I've done it, you name it. I just love the world so much. So, in all honesty, the word experience with Dungeons and Dragons doesn't quite fit. That's my background, but experience is a way of being together that brings out the best in us, and I love it. A funny story, D&D based. So while DMing for 45 high schoolers at one time in one game, I'd split them into squadrons, and we had rotating dice rolls where the modifier of whoever was rolling would attack and figure out what they were going to do. In particular in this game, an old doddering wizard named Fizzban asked them to fight an upcoming war. And they had to prove their mettle against an adult blue dragon. The adult blue dragon was an illusion. None of them knew that. However, while coming to a table of older high schoolers, one of them said, "I want to seduce the dragon." To which I said, well, you're welcome to try to consensually kiss the dragon or date them or maybe invite them to homecoming. So we're still like, I want to invite them to homecoming. And I said, all right, roll me a persuasion check. They proceeded to get up onto the table, knelt down, and held out and said, will you go to homecoming with me? And rolled a nat 20. To which I then said, the dragon leans down, her snout coming close to your face, and says, my love, what kind of corsage should I get? And as they go to kiss, only a puff of blue smoke remains because it was an illusion. Now, the next day, I was presented with this. And I proudly displayed this in my classroom for some time. And I just love how this game never stops being a part of our lives. Your party has fallen. And this, sadly, is not the fall that strengthens heroes, for that is one from which they may arise and grow. No, you all are dead. If you're reading this part of the script, this has literally never happened before, and hopefully will never happen again. Hello, Drew. How are you? As you're writing this, it is 7:40 p.m. on a Thursday, and you're 3 weeks and a day over the deadline of the script, and now you have to figure out what to do with these 3 dead heroes. So let's do this. Your souls cling to the mortal plane like few have done before, for what greater unfinished business can there be than that which is contractually obligated? You watch, powerless, as the creature escapes into the swirling vortex at the center of the room, and then the rumbling begins. And of course, I'd love to introduce you to this lawful neutral gentleman right here. This is General Marv. I am the General of the SS Blandfort, an astral plane traveling ship that unfortunately crashed here on Faerun and Neverwinter. My crew has gone missing, unfortunately, but anytime I can be a general, I will, and anything I can't solve with my jacket, I solve with my musket, as a proud GIF, that's right, a G as hard as my convictions.